120 days now, the schools have been shut down, and we at Notebook have brought together episode after episode of the Together for Education webinar to talk about various aspects of our school lives. Educators, principals, teachers, and students have joined us in great numbers, and we are thankful for that participation. Week on week, we see more than 500 people joining episode after episode of our webinar, and that is all because of the quality of conversation that we have been able to bring. Today, we bring a very interesting aspect of school life, the alumnus, the alumni bonds. People who study in a particular institution, even after they graduate, they rarely ever leave the institution. They remain an integral part of the institution, just as the institution remains an integral part of them. And it is these bonds that we will explore today. We will talk about their experiences, the value addition that they do to each other, and the different perspective that they share of school life. Before we move forward, at Notebook, we are continuously engaged in an effort to make studies more engaging for students. We do this through audiovisual content that we create tailored to the school curriculum. Speaking of perspective, I would now take a few minutes of your time to show you a short video for class 3 students, which explains the concept of perspective to them.
Imagine that you are drawing a hut. In all probability, it looks something like this, doesn't it? Did you think of something slightly different, maybe like this? The two pictures seem so different, yet they are actually of the same object. The only difference between the two pictures is our point of view or perspective. The two pictures of the same object seem so different when viewed from different points. Confused? Let me help you with that. Here we see our object, that is the hut. Now, here comes a friendly photographer. Let's see what kind of photos he can take. Firstly, he takes a photo from the front of the hut. It looks something like this. Now, he takes out a special drone camera. Flying it high above, he clicks a photo from the top of the hut. What we saw are the front and top views of the same object. Didn't they look completely different? Let's see another example of this. As we can see here, the car has different appearances when seen from different sides. We can see the top, front, and side views of the car as the camera is moved around.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that rather forced segue into our content, let me now introduce to you our first speaker of the day. Our first speaker for today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. He served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Head of Student Welfare, Dean of Activities, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. Mr. Burrett also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. He qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. Mr. Burrett, sir, it's a privilege to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bayu. I hope I'm audible.
Loud and clear, sir.
Yeah, and good evening to everyone at Notebook, our wonderful panel, and our guests that have tuned in. If the alma mater is Latin for the nourishing mother, or the institution that one has been educated in, then alumni, another Latin word, means the students who pass out from that institution. Now, the association of students that have passed out of an institution wish to stay connected even after they've passed out from school, because this relationship between institution and alumni is a bond of mutual love, service, and respect. Alumni benefiting from the institution as much as the institution benefiting from the old students. And students who have spent the best part of their childhood in a school with other boys and girls want to keep the spirit and memory alive. And remember, they are bonded for life by that old school tie, school songs, a common experience, a unique lingo, battle cries on the games field, and a long list of common stories. The alumni will give anything to visit their own school, to regress for a while and savor the old days, even if it means taking a quiet, solitary walk down memory lane while stopping over or passing through the town that the school is located in. Schools will often flaunt with pride the list of their famous alumni in a way of advertising the school and to tell the world what it produces. Walls are lined with honor boards and picture galleries that that alumni return to see with their families and grandchildren, because this deep respect that they have for the institution that bred and made them successful and famous men that they are today. Sometimes it's a matter of showing off to the children, but I think it's a serious thing. Then they walk down school again. Now, the power of an alumni depends on two factors: the power and position of its members and how well each student has done and what high offices they hold. And this translates into resources, influence, and political and financial strength. And the second is how willing are these students to help and respond to the call of the alma mater. Now, US colleges have some of the best known and most powerful alumni associations. Schools like Yale and St. Philip's Exeter, for example, have produced more US presidents than any college, just as Eton has for England. They have produced more prime ministers, even though Yale may hide the fact that George Bush Jr. was one of its students, and just as Eton might hide the fact that Boris Johnson was one of its treasured alumni. In India, the IITs and some of the B schools have a very, very strong alumni bond. Some schools have the reputation of producing alumni that have excelled in some fields, like St. George's College, famous school up in Missouri, famous for producing a lot of senior army generals and Air Force, chief of staffs. Mount St. Mary's Abu has produced very, very important special forces. Everything that happens in that school that produces these people. And the school I last worked in, the Doon school, has produced some of India's top executives and businessmen. Now, if you look at Goldman Sachs, for example, although it's not a school, it's a bank, but the Goldman Sachs alumni consists of the foreign ministers of many, many important countries. And you can imagine the political and financial clout that Goldman Sachs has on these nations. Now, day schools do have very strong alumni associations, and Manish will talk about that. But as a residential school teacher for almost 30 years, I understood because my own son went through the system. And if you're with a group of students from class 7 to class 12, living away from home, depending on each other, keeping watch while they ate chocolates and chips at night, being there for each other, and following carefully guarded codes of conduct like no sneaking, sharing everything, and developing an esoteric lexicon of words that is only known to the students. As one very famous old master from the school once put it, these boys will do anything to get into school, but once they have got into school, they will do anything to get out. He was referring to jumping the wall and leaving the school at night. And then once they passed out, they will do anything they can to return. And that is what I feel in schools that have very, very strong alumni. They're always willing to come back to school to help that school. Now, some schools have very, very funny names given to the alumni. Now, RIMC, which is a school in Dehradun, are called Brimcolians. Then you have Velamites. And you have one of the guest speakers today, Mr. Vidhukesh Vimal. His students are called Aviators. Then there are Martinians, Etonians, Harrovians, Yaleys, and finally in Doon School, they're called the Doscos. Now, in Doon School, funnily enough, there is no such thing as an ex-Dosco, because the only ex-Dosco is a dead Dosco. So everyone is called an old boy, even if you're 19 years old. Now, people from outside the school might think that this school is elitist. Now, while it is an elite school, it is by no means elitist. It is bonded together by by an aristocracy of service, not of class, material possessions, or birth. Now, if you look at some of the work that the alumni do for this school, I mean, right from the Kar Sebas outside the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where they feed multitudes of people for free, and even in this COVID times, some of the alumni have been giving out food and various things to people all over the country. And whether it's a cyclone in Orissa or earthquake in Uttarakhand, tsunamis on the East Coast, or the earthquakes in South India, the alumni of the school will be there, will be first to jump in with their expertise. Now, a society bonded together by adventure, sport, community service, and the love for the school is what I would call a strong alumni. Now, I come from a day school, which I left, um, way back, but and I never had very strong bonds with the school. But after many, many years, after 50 years, I returned to the school 2 years ago, and I was taken around by the principal. I met old boys who I had not seen for almost 50 years, and they put me up. They dined with me. It's so important. I mean, I felt the lack of the alumni bonding after so long, uh, and I can well imagine how close the associations are. Now, it's very simple to understand why people get together in alumni networks. The first thing is, of course, the great network and the connections that you have, the amount of professional help in finding jobs, getting references, getting help, restaurants and holiday homes and hotels and guest houses will they all are easy to get if you are connected. Um, Colleges and companies will know much more about you if you have a strong alumni backing. For example, in Cornell University, so many of the students from the school go there. There is even a professor from the school who's in there. And this means that the group is taken care of. They have regular dinners, and the professor helps the students settle down. It's also very easy to get summer jobs and job experience placements from alumni contacts. Looking at it from the point of view of a teacher, how does a teacher from a school look at alumni who keep coming in? The first is, I see that there's a lot of social gathering. There's a lot of bonhomie. There's a lot of fun and laughter where these old boys reminisce about the days in school. My heart goes out, of course, to the poor wives of these old boys who yawn and fall asleep while their husbands speak endlessly and nostalgically about the good old days. Uh, the other thing is that I find that the alumni help financially. They raise funds and endowments. They gift to the school annual purses and gifts as they celebrate their 20, 25th, 50th anniversaries. They also share their experience. I mean, there are famous engineers, auditors, architects, designers, experts, lawyers, mountaineers. They all come back to the school to share their expertise with the current boys. Um, Also for sporting events, I think the Doon school boy, the school I last worked in, is a very sporty person, and they keep this spirit of health and sport alive by constantly coming into school and challenging the current boys to matches. There's also a very healthy tradition of giving back to school that gave them so much, um, giving their time, money, experience. Some of the not so good things that I see from strong alumni is that there are a club of socialites who wait for their sons to get into school, and then they interfere with the educational patterns in the school, even though they're not educationists. They don't like change, and they can sometimes come in the way of progress. They want the school to be just the way it was when they were young. They even complain if the food is improved. They want it just the way it was. Um, the third is that they seem to hang in together as an alumni, as a family, with a lack of trust for people who don't come from their school. Having been so closely knit for 6 years, they don't trust people who are not from their school. And this may be one of the negatives. Then the last thing, of course, is that not all alumni are givers. Some take more than they give. Um, I will say that also the more important a school is, the more it is shaken when a important alumni brings upon it disgrace and a bad name. And papers, of course, are very, very quick to jump on a piece of juicy news uh, when a personality from a well-known school has done something bad or wrong. And lastly, I just like to say that all alumni, like a tribe, like a social group, like have their own rites and ceremonies and rituals. And I always like to see the ritual that is attached to form to the formation of these alumni group. In the Doon school, it's a very formal handing over procedure, because these boys are bonded by old blazers, ties, memorabilia, and common experience. So they have membership, they have people addressing them, the chairman, the secretaries of the Old Boy Association. They have a very formal handing over and receiving of memorabilia. There's a formal meal with their parents. And of course, they are inducted into a family that is very strong. It is known all over the world. I know that there are students from the school who even reside in Punto Arenas, which is the most southern point of Argentina. So wherever you go, you will find a member of the alumni, and this is the family that you go into. I will end with a very short story. This is the St. Stephen's College function, of course, a very famous school. It has very famous alumni. And at this function, there was Salman Khurshid speaking to the audience. Of course, it was an old St. Stephen's gathering. And he happened to say, "Whatever I am today, I owe to the college." And from the side, Manish Iyer, also an MP, mutters, "Please, Salman, don't blame the college for everything." And with that, I will hand this back to Shibayu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the wonderful anecdote and your great explanation of exactly how alumni bonding works in various schools, especially at your school, the Doon School. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the next speaker. Our next speaker today evening, Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, he was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with a keen interest in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Am I audible?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which is very relevant while defining any institution. In the words of former US President John F. Kennedy, I think the success of any school can be measured by the contribution the alumni makes to our national life. Alumni bonds have created wonders around the world. It's one thing to face the world alone, and another with few of your friends being with you during your most difficult times and bear the burden of your failures and success. Well, alumni bonds have shown many such great instances around the world when friendships at school or college have phenomenally developed into world-class entrepreneurships, partnerships, and associations. Before I move further with my deliberation, let me take this opportunity to extend a very special welcome to our eminent panelists who will enrich us with their thoughts and experiences today. Now, well, it's common saying that all great discussions in the world have always begun from coffee tables, casual conversations, and informal debates among aspiring students who have a dream to change the world. Prior to the tech era, the only means of communication was when friends connected from one school on a one-to-one basis in groups during free or evening pastimes. The famous film director and Oscar winner in Lifetime Achievement category, Mr. Ray, often boasted of these casual conversations or evening addas with the best of intellectuals in the film space for great ideas in movie making. Now, many ambitious schools and universities boast of wonderful alumni connects that has given them the prestige and reputation they need. There is a plethora of evidences that will speak for this, and here I shall share some great inspiring examples with you. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, eminent Hollywood actors, is one great example of two kids who had bonded from their preschool stage. It's said that the pair held business lunches in high school to plan their future. While Matt went to Harvard at a later stage and Ben to University of Vermont, they both had identical interests. They had absolutely resolved to stay together on any new venture in life, be it making of hot dogs or Dodger games. What happened later is history, with both of them winning the Best Screenplay Oscar in 1998 for their script Good Will Hunting. Microsoft co-founders Bill Gates and Paul Allen first met as teenagers in late 60s at Lakeside School in Seattle, when Gates was in 8th grade and Allen was in 10th grade. Gates had later stated that it was a computer terminal that brought us together. In 1974, the summer after Gates' freshman year at Harvard, they were both working as computer programmers at a software company named Honeywell. At the age of 19, in 1975, Gates dropped out of college to launch Microsoft, now world's greatest software company. Famous rock brands, rock bands have emerged from alumni connects. We often hear about great minds from IIT joining hands to have formed such great companies in India. So there's multiple examples of institutions being formed by alumni connects from great schools that have held high posts for quality education and have only advanced with breaking their own official records in performances and achievements. Because eventually, when you are the best, you can only compete with yourself. Now, as Burrett also mentioned, that for global success and recognition, it's always the team that matters. Thus, whether it be professional or personal opportunities, doors will open for you. So that really is a great advantage of Alumni Connect. Now, how do we define an institution? Is it by the size of its campus or the height of its buildings? Is it by the number of its teachers or their individual scholastic achievements? Or is it how well equipped its library or laboratory is? Well, all the above details may be factually relevant, but when it comes to chasing our dreams of being part of an institution of repute, it's very different from buying a fully loaded top-end car or a premium apartment. Thus, what truly matters is the indelible mark that its alumni has made in this world. Money can buy everything, barring history. Thus, when we define a Eton College or Harrow or our very own Doon school closer to home, what really sets this institution's class apart is this illustrious list of alumni. The relation between an institution and its alumni is a lifelong one. The invisible umbilical cord is a lifelong phenomenon. Once they complete their curriculum, the students leave the campus, but a part of the campus reside within them, irrespective of where they are in any corner of the world. People judge an institution based on how the alumni perform, and also from an initial impression, at least in many cases, about an alumni based on the reputation of its institution. Now, in many cases, alumni have a huge role in any institution in terms of thought leadership. It is important for any institution to continuously nurture its network of old boys and facilitate active engagement with them so as to ensure that their thought process also helps in taking the institution to new heights. The old students who had earlier been a part of the campus and have also had significant exposure are uniquely positioned in terms of offering value-added suggestions. Now, alumni contribution also helps for corporate sponsorship, internship, and campus placement. Shival, can we go to the earlier slide, please? Alumni success story is the biggest selling point for any institute, as the proof of the pudding lies in eating. Industry interface is very critical for any professional institute, especially for college and universities. Thus, it's important to ensure an active and robust alumni network. It really motivates the existing lot when they see the old boys in the campus who have made a mark in their own domain. Nothing succeeds like success. For instance, when Sundar Pichai visited his alma mater IIT Kharagpur in 2017, first time since graduation in 1993, it was indeed a celebration. Hostel and security staff crowded around. Someone whispered, "It's the bearded one," confirming Pichai's identity. Wide-eyed current residents stood huddled by the corridors as 44-year-old Pichai walked up to B308, his earlier room. It was an ordinary room with 2 chairs, a table, a bed with a pillow, and a guitar tucked away under the window. Behind the green door, there was a curious collection of cosmetics, edibles, and electronics piled up on a concrete shelf. It could have been any hostel room in any Indian college. For Pichai, presumably, it remains something special. So too for the young men who now live in Nehru Hall. So one of the students, Shashank, said, it's a badge of honor for every Nehruite. So this is the kind of motivation that this brings in, which is unique. Now, in many cases, alumni can wear the hat of an administrator as well. So when it comes to, we have seen instances where they have been part of governing body, helping in managing institutions, and help in better policy level decisions with their experience in entrepreneurship, governance, etc. Also, what really tilts the scale in their favor is the unquestionable affection and sense of belonging towards the institution, which makes them really ideally suited for the role. Now, we have seen instances of many successful principals and teachers who have come back to their alma mater to give what they got from the institute. So they come back as teachers, as principals, and there's no better role model for students than teachers who have sat literally in the same chairs. For them, it's much more than a job. It's not only about holding on to or preserving a tradition, but also ensuring that the flag is always flying high. Now, this is common. Now, referring to what Burrett also discussed, coming back as parents. Now, all over the world, historically, families and institutions have had relationships across generations. And thus, very often, parents entrust the same institution to take care of their children where they had spent their formative years. As a parent, it's much more easier for an alumni to appreciate many of the traditions that an institution carries forward. And the cultural ethos in the family also remain uniform across generations. Now, but what does an alumni expect from an institution, right? Ships dock at the harbor, and that is where they meet fellow sailors who share tales about unknown lands. And then after sharing some old stories of years gone by, and with new enthusiasm, they again set sail to conquer unknown choppy waters. The role of an institution is indispensable in maintaining a robust alumni network. And that is where, because that is where they all met, grew up, and then went their own ways. Thus, it's a hub and spoke model, where the school or institution will always be the hub of all reunion or alumni network, whether actually or virtually. Thus, any meeting of old boys taking place in any corner of the world is sure to mention and discuss about the school. Now, another very important aspect is, and it's a very fair expectation that any old student has, is with regard to the institute maintaining its standard of excellence. So old students, they have the deepest regard for their own alma mater. They really take great pride in the institutions and want them to always excel, even in changing and challenging times. Thus, we really feel proud when anyone from our school or college has achieved something notable in life. Our paths might have never crossed as we were part of the journey in different era, but we still feel connected by a common link. Thus, going back to the roots is always a special moment for all of us. In the words of Robert Souther, an English poet of the Romantic school, no distance of place or lapse of time can lessen the friendship of those who are thoroughly persuaded of each other's worth. There are some relations in life which outlive us and are indeed priceless, more so because those were the selfless years of innocence and sweet nothings. So I think I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing, and I look forward to the views of the eminent panel today. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you so much, Achin. Thank you for sharing those wonderful views with us. It is now my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you our guest speakers for today. The first speaker today is Dr. Vidhukesh Vimal. Dr. Vimal has had a distinguished academic career with a PhD and an MPhil from the University of Delhi, a B.Ed from the Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi. His MA was from Hindu College and BA Honours from Hansraj College, Delhi University. He has taken a course in student residential care from Australia, has a certificate in school management and leadership from Harvard Business School and Harvard Graduate School of Education, together with an international postgraduate certificate in education from the University of London Institute of Education and a certificate in pastoral care from the UK Boarding School Association. He has had special education needs training from Mumbai. Dr. Vimal is currently heading the Assam Valley School since September 2019. He is of the firm belief that in the 21st century, when knowledge is changing so rapidly, it is very important that skills such as collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity, and character are developed in each child. At the Assam Valley School, where student voice is part of everyday life, it is but natural that their students develop these skills and develop into responsible and confident young adults. It is our privilege to have Dr. Vimal with us today. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much for my introduction, and good evening to all. In fact, Mr. Burrett has covered the ground so much, and then the next speaker, Mr. Bhattacharyya, as well. But I think it's my job to, I guess, clarify certain thoughts and certain things, like what we are talking about, because it's very interesting to understand. Because the topic given today is alumnus bond. And I personally feel that sometimes, bond is little pure, and we may drift from bond to networking. Because when we talk about networking is more or less a managerial thing, a corporate thing. And when you talk about a school or colleges, a bond is more pure, where emotional things come into play. And bond comes from your experience and your gratitude towards the institution. And that's why this gratitude is so important. And if you compare with bond with, say, networking, then networking goes with, say, utility theory, that I'm useful to you, you are useful to me. And that's why you look at in some organizations where people are more useful than other, they connect well. They connect well, not like because they like each other's company, because they connect because they feel that it's beneficial. And that's why my personal understanding is, we must, as a school, we must focus more on bond than the networking part. Obviously, networking is the byproduct of bond. When you are connected so well, when the emotions are attached, when you have the gratitude towards the organization, when you have the gratitude towards the teacher who has spent some time with you, it's up to the individual that the individual will come back, will share his thoughts or her thoughts with the organization. And so important. I had the privilege to be the housemaster in Doon school for almost 8-9 years. And I have seen different kind of boys there. At the same time, for last 1 year, being a headmaster of a co-ed school in Assam. And I can say that, it's very important that, and this is something my learning is, how you look at these things. If a school look at these things from the perspective of gratitude, from the perspective of, I'll say, connecting, then you will nurture certain things on campus as a school. You need to nurture, I'll say, the individuals who are the custodians of these stories. Because as a school, if I'm the headmaster, and if I'm not going to nurture or they say preserve the teachers, the places, the things which, kind of carry forward the stories of the generations who are passed out from the school, no one is going to come back. And that's why the onus is on the school and the head on many occasions to ensure that you have such people on campus to be the custodians, because they are the ones who have seen your childhood. You don't want to come to just to see the empty walls or the corridors of the campus. You want to come and chat with your master who has taught you English, maths, Hindi, or taught you hockey, football, cricket on the ground field. And then you want to share those things. You want to go back to those stories when your housemaster has caught you doing something wrong late in the night, 12 o'clock, and still next day share the same Maggie thing together. So that kind of things are very, very much important. But many times as a school, we miss out this part. We think alumni bonding means only students, and we forget the most important aspect, teacher. And many on occasions I have seen that, students, they look after the teachers. They connect with the teachers, but schools, they miss out this opportunity to look after the teachers, to ensure that they are part of that league, or they are, say, in the loop. They think because due to whatever be the reason, maybe for different schools, there are different reasons. And for their reasons, they ensure that, the influential or those who have the center of around whom the center of power revolves, you build certain things. So when we talk about alumni bond, my understanding is role of the school head is very, very important to nurture that. If you look at Mr. Burrett talked about Doon School, and I'll say Mr. Foot's contribution to that in the beginning to nurture the old boy society in Doon School is immense. And obviously different house headmasters, and then obviously the old boys, they have done their bit. But in first 10 to 15 years, 10 years of time, he was the one who was looking after Mr. Foot and then Mr. Martin. And that's why it's so, so important. If I move to the next part, and that's something I'll say, how you connect. What are you doing as an organization to connect with the school? And that's why I feel that it's the onus on the school to create the regions. Many times we forget to create such reason. If I may say, the Assam Valley School is celebrating 25th year. And when I came, I met so many old boys and old girls all across this country. But at the same time, I realized that we as a school have missed the say opportunities or the reason to connect with them, to bring back those people on campus, whatever be the thing. It may be through, say, some discourse, discussions, sporting events, all kind of stuff. But we need to bring those people back on campus. We need to ensure that, or we go to them, or we meet them in different cities, different things. In fact, we had a huge plan to meet our old boys and old girls in different cities, but first CA and then this Corona and COVID thing has kind of derailed our plans, because CA happened in November, December, and then March onward, this COVID thing has derailed our plan. But definitely that's something I feel that either you create the reason and bring them back to the campus, or you go to them and meet them. But if I have to conclude, I'll say that we should not be carried away with the networking word, because that's the byproduct. The main reason of alumni association is to ensure that they are connected emotionally. And that's why many times what happens, we claim them, but are they going to claim us? There are so many examples from great institutions where the institutions claim the student that he or she is from my place. But what about the student? Is he or she is going to claim the same institution? And there are some embarrassing situations where, Schools have invited some fantastic speakers or some fantastic people in the public figure to their say silver jubilees or their founders or their different occasions, and then they had done something which they should not have done, either in their speech or some other way. So my understanding is it's very important that it's a both way or both side story. The school, the kids should have the gratitude, and the school should have that kind of say idea or that kind of say approach to ensure that you are inclusive and then you're including. And the second part, I just said, when we talk of the alumni, we should not leave the teachers, because teachers are so important. Not only teachers, other staff as well. I have seen people looking for fourth class. There's a very famous guy in, I'll say in Doon school, fine. His nickname was Don, and he was the bearer in one of the houses. And if every boy who has passed from that particular house looked for him, where he came as a parent or later on different capacities. Where is Don? Where is Don? And when our house was celebrating 75th year, we especially invited that particular person, Don, to the campus and for the house feast and for the house celebrations. So it's not about just teachers, but any individual can become such an integral part. And as a school, when we talk about alumni, we should not leave these people behind. They should be part of our program. They should be part of the loop in which when we are talking, connecting with people, we must connect with them. If we keep such approach, I'm pretty sure that the alumni bond and the byproduct, the value additions, whatever happened, those are byproduct that will definitely happen. There will be better networking, there will be better connect. You will never feel that you're alone in this world, wherever you are, which part of the world you are. But definitely, I feel that gratitude and emotional values, those need to be inculcated in these societies rather than just networking. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for those wonderful words and that wonderful analysis of how the alumnus school relationship works. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce to you your second speaker for the day. Mr. Sameer Dhingra is a Doon School alumnus from the 1987 batch. He was educated in Dehradun with his early education at the Welham Boys School, and in 1981 he joined the Doon School and he graduated in the year 1987 from that school. He then went on to graduation at the DAV College in Commerce in the year 1990 and various diplomas from NIIT in 1991. He has been running the family business since 1990, which manufactures automobile bulbs under the brand name Comet and their own brand of automobile lubricants by the name, having a pan-India presence and dealership network. He is actively involved in the Doon School Old Boys Society and has been the batch representative of the batch of 1987 since 1994 until 2018, and is looking after the Dehradun chapter of the Doon School Old Boys Society for the past 18 years. He's on the governing body of the IB College Society Panipat, of the Himjyoti Foundations or the Himjyoti School Society Dehradun. He is on the board of governors of IIT Root, on the governing council of Rafael 2016, the governing body of the Institute of Technology Gopeshwar Uttarakhand, and the list goes on. But most importantly, he is here today as a Doon old boy that we've heard so much about. And so without taking up any more of your time, it is now my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Sameer Dhingra. Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. Do pardon me, there might be some background noise. Actually, I had to leave for another meeting of Thai Global. So I am in the car actually right now. So I'll just cut my video also. My apologies. But thank you so much for having me here. So alumni bonds is very close to my heart specifically, and I'm sure it's the same with everyone, every alumni. What we have and what we've learned from our school days is what we see or we feel, as an alumni, because ultimately we are what we grow up to be, what we've learned when we were children or students of a college. So at that time, whatever our bonding has been, our friendship have been with our batchmates, our seniors, our juniors, they translate into the bonds you nurture or keep up with after you pass out of school through the years. So it's been some years I have passed out, and I can proudly say that I have strong bonds with my batchmates, with my fraternity, and alumni bonds is also a bit of networking, as like one of my teachers from Doon School had said. It gives you an opportunity to network, to connect, to uh, one can say use that friendship. That would be the correct, I think, way to put it. And it's a great thing. And I think the way our society, the Doon School Old Boys Society, has nurtured it and curated it, or whatever one can call it, it does give Doon School Old Boys Society, in short called the DSOBS, uh, a position which a lot of people uh, want to be part of. So that's the reason they're also joining the Doon School, to get that education and be a part of the fraternity. Our fraternity, of course, is across the world. Like Mr. Burrett said, one of the old boys is there in Argentina. There's one in Tasmania, another end, up, and fraternity also has excelled itself in various fields, from uh, politics to business to adventure. We have had our DOSCOs who climbed Everest, gone to the ends of the earth, North Pole, South Pole, and of course, in politics, we've had a lot of famous ones everyone would know. So what accumulates is that there is a bond with them. You might meet a person after 20 years, but you just take off like you met him 3 days ago, or you don't feel there's a difference of 20 years when you meet him. And that bond is something which helps that connect, that camaraderie, which just kicks in with the person. That is something unique, which as an alumni, you feel that you're part of the society. And the society also helps you nurture that feeling, by organizing your get-togethers, by helping in times of need to various people or organizations. For example, in the ongoing Corona uh, situation, we had this doctor, ex-DOSCO doctor, not ex-DOSCO, DOSCO doctor in Haldwani in a COVID hospital. And this is right in the beginning. And there was no PPE kits available. He sent out a message to the fraternity, and in Dehradun, I had managed to find a PPE manufacturer. He was just starting. So we procured for him, and before the government could, uh, because government, of course, the procedure takes a bit longer, before the government could really supply to that hospital there, we managed to send him in an emergency situation via speed post. In fact, we managed to send him protective kits. And I mean, technically, he was much junior to me, but doesn't make a difference, because that's the bond. I wanted to help a fellow DOSCO, or the society wanted to help a fellow DOSCO, and then the chain started, and of course, all over the country there was a situation where protective gear was needed, quality gear was not available, and then the society also kicked into action, because initially it was just okay, 30th March will be over and the lockdown will end, but the problem continued, still does. So our society, through the alumni network, we raised, I mean, mind-boggling amounts of money. I won't really take the figures here, but I can probably say that our society also managed to, as a collective, probably feed over 10 lakh people, and various places from Bombay to Meerut to Dehradun. So it was just one call. Our batch, that is the batch of 1987, I requested that, look, this is what is the need of the hour. We need to donate for PPE kits. So let's collect some money. We collected money, we gave it to the society, society bought, and we gave it to hospitals in Jharkhand. We gave it to Doon Hospital in Dehradun, Basuri, all COVID hospitals. We gave it to the frontline workers in Bhimtal, Bageshwar. So this is all the society, the alumni strength. Ultimately, the alumni bond, the love and the affection which we learned at the Doon school, which stood us in good time. And the greatest thing is that you just go anywhere, wherever you are. If you come to know there is a alumni there, you can connect with him. You can talk about old masters and incidents, anecdotes, and it's great fun. When I was in school, Mr. Burrett taught us, so we do have some anecdotes and incidents about him, but we won't share them here. But I just like to thank everyone. Thank you, Mr. Burrett. And I'd just like to end on that. I do hope I managed to get a little bit of the view across on the alumni bonds. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhingra. Thank you for taking the trouble to do this while you were traveling and in a car. And regarding the anecdotes about Mr. Burrett, we do hope to get in touch with you separately and get those sourced from you. Those are of great interest to us. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to introduce your next speaker for the day. It is now my privilege to introduce to you Mr. Manish Seth. Manish is the secretary of the XFAPSIANS, which is the alumni network of the Frank Anthony Public School, New Delhi. He is an alumnus himself of the school's 1987 batch. He finished his college at the SRCC, Delhi University in 1990. He's a businessman who's into equipment and solution provisioning for the hospitality industry. He's also the secretary of the Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Traders Association and a member of the Delhi and District Cricket Association. It is our privilege to have Mr. Seth with us today. Mr. Seth, over to you.
Though our school is very old, but our association was formed much later. I passed out school from 1987, but this association, as Mr. Burrett said, there is no ex-DOSCO, but then we called it XFAPSIANS, that we were from school, although there was a dispute on it, and we were finally called it XFAPSIANS. This was formed in 2004 only, so it's about 16 years. And we followed a very strict memorandum of association and memorandum of rules and regulations which we had made. And we were of the view that our top priority will be the current students from nursery to 12th onwards. Whatever good we can do for them first, and then everything came second. So we had some, not to take names, we had a managing director who owned a bank. He was, the moment the school name came in, he was the first one to jump in and come up with so many scholarships, so many sponsorships, starting from class 4th to 12th. Then there were some ex-students who were fond of few teachers. Like we had one of the longest serving principals, Mr. George W. Mayer. So he was fond of Mr. Mayer. So there are scholarships in the name of the principals, teachers, schools, all started by the alumni members on their own. They have funded it, but it goes through XFAPSIANS. Once this was through, then we thought of, again, the word networking comes into play. And then we thought of that, why not try and connect every batchmate to every batchmate? And now every year we have an annual dinner, which is fixed in January. And it's usually attended by about 400 to 500 people, which I think is a phenomenal figure, because Frank Anthony Public School, though being a co-ed, never had, I think in past 15, 16 years, the maximum strength of this class 12 batch was 140. So probably 4,000 to 5,000 students have passed out, and every year we get new. And the best part is that now we get 2014, 2013, 2017 batch students coming to the annual dinner, interacting with their seniors, and actually getting influenced, because we do get, as he said, that we have had a lot of bureaucrats, former ambassadors. We have very proudly say we have an alumni who's the current minister in Modi ji's government, and such people have always been very helpful, be it any batch. I mean, Whenever I've approached someone who's probably from a 69 batch, and that's the year I was born in, and he's come to know that I've passed out from Frank Anthony Public School. Uh, Usually, I've never seen any resistance. They have been more than helpful in whatever way they can, be it the highest authority or a small businessman. But once the name of the school comes up, they're ready to help. And since we follow our memorandum of association and memorandum of rules and regulations very strictly, and we are fortunate because of the alumni association, a lot of chartered accountants have passed out. So we even our chartered accountant is an ex-FAPSIAN who obviously doesn't charge us a penny. But unfortunately, our association, whenever the rules were made, there was no clause of helping teachers. It was only helping students and ex-FAPSIANs. But we thought of another way because a couple of years back, one of our very popular teachers, he and his son both fell sick, and they were in urgent need of money because sir had just retired. And fortunately, it's very surprising, within 5 days we were in a position to raise almost 10 lakh rupees, which were directly transferred to sir's account. So we've had small instances where during COVID also we've had some ex-FAPSIANs who've lost their jobs and who were not in a position to probably buy books or pay the school fees, although the school is in a way supporting the current students in a lot better way, but still everything cannot be done by school. So we've tried and helped those ex-students whose kids are studying in FAPS and they are facing any problem. So to sum it up, I've been fortunate to have been there in my school. We have a great bonding. We have a great bonding with our batch, and we've had doctors, bureaucrats, and the moment we have a Facebook page, and if anyone needs anything, once they mention, so be it a person in US or any part of the world, there is a helping hand always there. Fortunately, we have had now different chapters. We have close to 4-5 chapters in India and about 4-5 chapters worldwide. Like few ex-FAPSIANs staying in London regularly meet, few ex-FAPSIANs staying around New York regularly meet, and now they're all tying up with each other and trying to help each other in whatever way they can. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and I'm indeed grateful for listening me out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Seth, for making the time to share these experiences with us. It's heartening to see the alumnus and the alumni network of Frank Anthony doing so much for the school and the other students. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our speaking sessions. Before I invite Achin back for the vote of thanks, just a quick reminder. We at Notebook would be hosting the 0-hour inter-school debates. We are very fortunate now to announce that we have been partnered by Stay Free. Stay Free as a brand does a lot for the girl child, women's empowerment, and particularly in feminine hygiene products. And we are extremely happy to announce that they have now partnered with us. We already have more than 60 schools that have signed up. We just have 2 more slots open. So in case your school has not yet signed up for the 0-hour debate, today would be the last day of registrations. Tomorrow we are having the draw of lots by which we will decide on the schedule of the debates. And then from the 18th, the debates would start. We are looking forward to some very exciting speakers from a lot of schools. We've had registrations from all over India, from the Middle East, and schools in Nigeria. We are extremely excited about this event. We will keep you posted over emails, the ones that you have used to log in today. So please do keep checking them regularly so that you stay updated on 0-hour. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a privilege hosting you today. My name is Shubhayu Roy, and I am the co-founder of Notebook. I will leave you with Achin for the vote of thanks. Achin, over to you.
Sure. So I think we really had a great session. Lot of insights. Burrett sir, thank you so much for bringing forward the points. I think very candid discussion, and I really liked something about what you said was that you know you also highlighted both sides of the coin. So while on one hand we do understand it's a very emotional topic, but coming from an eminent academician like you, who have been at the helm of affairs, I think it's only very fair that we get a complete perspective. So I think great indeed. Dr. Vidhukesh, Vimal, very practical perspective. I really like the way you explained bonds and networking. And also, we couldn't agree more when you discussed about teachers, you know. So when we discuss about an institution, it's not only about the building or the campus, but it's about our teachers who really taught us. And without them, really, any alumni get together, any bond, any association is incomplete. And yes, indeed, it's an emotional connection. Networking is only a byproduct. And also, it's a mutual responsibility to nurture the ties. Thus, gratitude and emotional value are cornerstones. Mr. Samir Dhingra, I think you're very right when you said that the fraternity has indeed excelled itself in various fields. And I really like that part when you explain how you instantly take off even after meeting somebody after 20 years. That's truly incredible. That's heartfelt. And I congratulate you for so much of great work that you and other DOSCOs are doing. Thank you so much for being a part of this panel and enlightening us. Mr. Seth, I think in spite of the fact that Frank Anthony being such old institution, but the fact that 2004, last 16 years, I'm sure your journey has been really great with regard to the association. And I really like the way you explained that top priority is current students. It couldn't be more correct. Great thought in terms of bringing in scholarships, and especially in the name of old principals and teachers. That speaks volumes. And also mentoring the younger generation, trying to help each other. I guess that should be the spirit. So I think we had a great session. I also thank the audience for being a part of this. Your encouragement and constant support has been the reason why we at Notebook have been able to host these events week after week. Every week we do these events twice on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And we have only grown from strength to strength with your support. And I'm sure with debates coming in, we'll have more interactions. So with this, I thank all of you again. Goodbye and take care.